All right, all right. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, I appreciate it, I truly do. And thank you so, boy, I'm so grateful to be reconnected with the LMTI family. We have a phenomenal group of individuals who are gonna really have a discussion about this. And for all of our viewers, all the participants, I see the chat box. We got people all over the United States chiming in. Right now we're at, I want to say 88. I'm thinking we're going to hit 100. Okay. So you need to call some friends, text them, tell your grandma we are on, Jack. Okay. Grandma, you need to be on this program tonight. But in all seriousness, I'm just saying, let's hit 100. What y'all say? And so the thing is that, this is about really real talk. Okay. Real talk. I personally, oh my goodness, George Floyd's murder, this is like, I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe, live TV, right? And I cried. And so, I just want to be real that, we're going to talk tonight, and we have a phenomenal group of panelists. And so I want to, first of all, just open it up where each of the panelists will, give a quick intro of who they are. And I'd like for each of our panelists also to share, why is this topic, real talk racism, important to you? So after you share your name and who you are, why is this subject important to you? And so we're going to kick it off with Katrina James. Katrina, would you please share first?
Hi, everyone. So good to be with you this evening. My name is Katrina James. I was a Tigger in '89 and a Yak in '90 and '91. So I am older than most of you, I think. Yes, I was definitely around in the days of the Teen Institute of the Garden State. I live in Jersey City. I am an attorney and a social worker by training, and have done a variety of things in both arena. I currently have a consulting practice, and I started a small nonprofit that advocates for underrepresented students in Staten Island. And so this issue is really important to me. I actually became a lawyer because I was seeing the people who looked like me not able to access the kind of opportunities that I accessed. And so I wanted to use my energy to try to make sure that everybody had an opportunity to live their best life, and have moved from the law back to nonprofit in order to really be able to manifest that in a meaningful way. So I see the institutional ways that our system makes us really lacking in the kinds of things that people who don't look like me lack. And so that's why this is really important to me.
Wow, thank you so much. Really glad you're here, Katrina. And that just shows the power of one, for you to be, inspired to say, I want my life to matter. So I want to just say thank you. And also I want to say that Laura Hogg said she was a Tigger in 1991. So she was right there with you. So I think, yeah, there you go. So it's a reunion also. It's a reunion. And so let's go on to next, Dr. Melanie Riviera Maldonado.
You can call me Melanie. The Zoom is automatically, so I'm okay with Melanie. I'm born and raised in Puerto Rico. Spanish is my first language. I've been here for the last 5 years. I'm a first-generation student. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for a youth program in the island. So I'm appreciative of the work that you all do. And I'm a clinical psychologist, and I'm the director of a nonprofit in East Orange that serves youth and kids in Hudson and in Essex counties. And I think I do the work that I do because like Katrina mentioned, I saw that racism is institutional, and it's institutionally systemic. So I'm ready to do the fight and the work with kids who have been part of the system of DCPMP and all of that. So I'm ready to do the legwork to advocate and to serve as an example and to help students become psychologists at the same time, because I also work in training. So that would be the short answer.
Wow. Well, thank you, Melanie. I really appreciate you being here. And again, you can see already, we have leaders, individuals that said, I want my life to matter. And for you to be on, we're 92 strong right now. I still believe we're gonna get to 100. So you need to call grandma, get her on tonight. But in all seriousness, this is what it's all about. It's about each one of us doing our part. And so, I'm a gentleman, so I want Jasmine to go next. Jasmine, would you introduce yourself?
Hey guys, my name is Jazz. I'm from Harrison, New Jersey. I am also a first-generation student, proud first-generation student. I am also a Latina. I'm from Uruguay. So I'm a huge advocate for immigrants' rights. Right now I am majoring in sociology. Eventually I would like to become a lawyer. So yeah, I'm very proud. I know that if I have a camper in the chat that is in the same situation that I am, I want to be able to uplift them and to support them and know that, we have a community that loves and, is there for them. So yeah,
Wow.
thank you.
Thank you, Jazz. And, it takes a lot of courage and, for her to be, this is recorded and she's like, look, this is who I am. This is my story. And, it's one thing to live in fear. It's another thing to say, you know what, I'm going to step into the greatness that I have. And I'm just going to, let my story shine, and it can be a ripple. And I also heard Jazz say, if there's just one, Tigger camper that I can be a blessing for by my story, knowing you're not alone, that's power. So Jazz, I want to say thank you, really do. And look, I just found out Garfield has 18 people watching together. They typed it in the chat box. They said, oh, Marlon, we're over 100 already. Go on, Garfield. That's what I'm talking about, all right? And so let's go to my man, Andre. Andre, how are you, brother? Share who you are and why is this important?
I'm well. Well, Andre Richburg or Dre, whichever you prefer. I have been a part of TI since '94. I've served in every role that TI has, from Tigger, Yak, Cat, first group of college track students, and volunteer. I was a Yak and Cats coordinator, and I also worked for TI. It was my first job out of college. And being a part of TI, that was what first opened up my eyes to how different the world was at that time outside of my own community. I'm from Passaic originally, and while we were a mixture of cultures, mainly Black, Puerto Rican, Dominican, there was so much more that I didn't realize that was out there until I set foot on the grounds of Camp Mason. And I was thankful to have had that experience to mix it up with folks from Kittatinny. I see Kittatinny is on here. I never even heard of that before when I was 16 years old. Where is Kittatinny? What is Sussex County about? People from, down in South Jersey, where it's a different world down there when you break up North and South Jersey. And for us to have meshed together and have formed so many bonds during that 5 days that we were together, that has stayed with me for my life, and it has gone on to translate over into my career. I work in higher education. I'm an administrator. I do college admission and marketing and retention, and I've built a great passion to ensure that students coming from underserved backgrounds, students of color, marginalized populations have access to higher education. I've been part of committees. I've developed access programs for underserved students. And so it's really something that drives me, and will continue to have that drive, especially given how the latest events in our world over this whole 2020, including the latest one in Wisconsin. So as a man of color, I feel like I have the duty to be a voice for those who may not have one, and be as supportive as I possibly can.
Wow. Thank you, Dre. Really glad you're here, brother. And I think you kept it real. Sometimes all we know is the domain that we're in. And, if you've never been to the Pacific Ocean, I can describe it all I can, talk about, how it smells, how it feels, but unless you actually experience it. And I think that's one of the things that we're going to talk about tonight, stepping outside your comfort zone. Because, if I know no better, that's all I'm living. And sometimes just exposure is the first step to connection. So I want to say thank you for being real. So thank you so much for being here. Samaj, how are you, brother? How are you?
I'm doing well, Marlon. How's everything with you?
Awesome, man. Share a little bit about yourself and why is this important?
So again, Marlon mentioned, I'm Samaj. I'm from Jersey City. I've been with TEI throughout all of high school. So 2017, I was a camper. 2018 and 2019, I was a Yak. And then I'm looking forward to being a Cat next year after my freshman year of college. And honestly, why this is important to me is because I see, especially with like a lot of my African-American friends, they kind of don't really, when they think about things, they see like their life is kind of, they don't really want to get out of this bubble where it's like, African American men, and especially African American young men, are so prone to like have this mentality of like, it's either I want to become a rapper or I want to like play basketball or play sports. Like that's my outlet in life. So for me personally, it's like I want to do things and be able to speak out and talk about my experiences and what I do in life to show that there are other options, there are other experiences that you can go out there and get. And TI is definitely one of those experiences for me. And I think that everyone should be able to have these opportunities. So that's why I kind of use my voice and want to speak out on this topic.
Wow, thank you, man. I mean, that's real talk. You know, I went into a jail and I interviewed some brothers that are currently incarcerated. I'll never forget this one brother said, you know, growing up, all he saw was the drug dealer, the pimp, the gangster, and that's what he emulated. And he said his role model was Big Ox. And I said, oh, okay, where's Big Ox now? He said, oh, he's just down cell block, you know, 4, 3, 5, 6. And I was like, wow. And so, you know, with what you're doing, Samaj, you're saying, look, you know, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be an attorney. I'm going to be an engineer. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. You know, that is planting a seed. And I want to just say thank you, because especially for your friends, as well as for the younger generation, you know, they'll say, wow, if Samaj did it, I can do it too. So thank you for sharing that. And so DeMarco, come on, brother, you got to bring it home, man. You can see we got some A-list panelists. I hope you are one of them too.
Well, man, I hope I'm one of them too as well. I'm just honored to be in this chat and among all these amazing, powerful women and men of color. Thank you guys for ingratiating me into this process. I'm the Southerner here. I've got some deep Southern roots. I'm a good old country boy. Still say y'all, yes ma'am, no ma'am. But I'm a youth inspirational speaker that gets to travel the country and do my best to inspire and motivate young lives. And this opportunity means so much to me because I take that job so seriously. And it means so much to me to spend an hour or hour and a half in front of students pouring out my heart. And then when I walk out of the school, but because I'm wearing a backwards cap and a denim jacket and Tim's, to walk past someone and they clench their purse. And they don't realize that I'm the guy that just got off the stage singing Disney songs. My second reason for doing this is my biracial daughter. To work in a world to put her to put good out in the world, to allow her to experience life not as a Black woman, not as a white woman, but just a woman, just a beautiful young girl who embodies everything she is and loves every part of who she is. But to just work and push the conversation forward for her, that really means a lot to me, and one of the main reasons why I'm here as well.
Wow, thank you, DeMarco. And I know she's 7, going on 18, and that's really a blessing, man. And you know, you're just keeping it real. You know, I mean, you know, just the fact that, you know, as you said, you know, just you got off a stage and, you know, and then all of a sudden, you know, you walk past somebody and they clench their purse or whatnot. And, you know, one of the things that I think is, you know, what I have found is that just giving grace, you know, meaning, you know, if people knew better, they do better. And it's pretty sad, you know, that, you know, we're still in 2020 having this conversation. You know, we could put a man, a woman on the moon, and yet on Mother Earth, we got so many issues. And for some people say we're going backwards. So we'll talk about that as well. But DeMarco, you have made the A team, brother. I think everybody gives you a thumbs up for being here. So it was close. Dre, I was looking at him, but he said, okay, yeah, I'll give him a thumbs up.
Dre brought the heat, and he got that stone cold face.
So listen, panelists, you can see already we're 23 minutes in. You know, we've got an hour, so we got another 37 minutes, and we're going to be respectful. But I want you to understand right now, our intention is to talk about the issues, talk about the challenges, and talk about the solutions. Right? I mean, one thing is, it's one thing my mom used to always say, hey, don't always be talking about the problem unless you have a solution. So I'm really, you know, yes, racism is here. Yes, bigotry, sexism, right? I mean, homophobia, the whole 9, it's here. But now we're going to talk about it, but I also want to talk about solutions. And for our participants, viewers, type in the chat box if you have a question. I believe there's also a Q&A. You can type that so we can hear from you. This is interactive. This is not a monologue, right? It's a dialogue. And so my first question to kick this thing off is, why on a deep level? I mean, you know, we have privilege, right? Some people are very privileged, right? And then we have, you know, those, striving to live this American dream, right? And so why is this important? I'm going to talk about the privilege, folks. You know, why, you know, somebody who's privileged, you know, who won't have that, what DeMarco was talking about, where, you know, they're just walking and they just, you know, life is good. Why is this important for them as well, right? I mean, on this panel, I see, you know, people of color, but I don't see, you know, any Caucasians or whatnot. But why is this important for all of us? Anybody have any thoughts on that?
I'll jump right into it if you don't mind. I wanted to say this has been, I guess, one of my just stepping stones in this platform and pushing this conversation forward. Privilege is not something you sign up for, and it's not something that my melanin is not something that I signed up for. However, my melanin exists, and your privilege exists, and it's not something. It's not an indictment on you for me to address or acknowledge that you have privilege. That's not an indictment on you. That's a cry out to you to get you to acknowledge and realize and help me get the same grace that is awarded to you naturally. People see me and I am a 6'4", 250 plus Black man. I'm not allowed the same graces that my Caucasian counterpart is awarded. And it's nothing that I've done. It's nothing that he's done. It's the way that society has painted us throughout the years and throughout history. I'm perceived as a threat and he's not. And that's the only thing that I want people to kind of understand about privilege, is that it exists. It's not something that you sign up for, and it's not an indictment to you and not an indictment on you unless you use it to further oppress and further keep down people of color. Acknowledging it does not make you an enemy. Acknowledging it actually goes a long way in helping you become an ally.
Awesome. Thank you, DeMarco. And I'm gonna get to you, Jasmine, in a second, but I see in here we have a chat. It says white privilege refers to the unquestioned and unearned set of advantages, entitlements, benefits, and choices bestowed on people solely because they are white. Generally, white people who experience such privilege do so without being conscious of it. White Privilege, Unpacking the Invisible Knapsack by Peggy McIntosh. So again, you know, it's just like, you know, I think DeMarco said it. Look, I'm not holding you, you know, like you're, you know, part of the problem. I mean, it is what it is. We heard that, right? I mean, you know, I'm using that from another context, but the thing is that, okay, this is, you know, this is where we are. And at the same time, you know, the question was, why should everybody be concerned about this? So go ahead, Jazz.
Yeah, I think definitely, you know, I think more than anything, it's very hard, at least for me personally, because, you know, my complexion is very different from my situation, if that makes sense. You know,
Okay.
People might look at me and go, oh, it's a white girl. Okay. But they don't see the deeper level of, like, you know, being a white Latina. Like, at the same time, I had to acknowledge that I am white, but at the same time, okay, I'm part of this community that is very underprivileged, you know, immigrants. So at the same time, it's very easy for me to be like, yeah, you know, I go through the same thing that my Black brother goes through, you know? No, it's not the same thing. Like you were saying, DeMarco, if I'm, you know, it's very different, you know, the way that we're perceived. And I think that even me, I've had to learn to take a step back and say, yeah, there is a little privilege to my complexion. And with that, I'm learning how can I be a better ally to the Black community. And I think that that's why everyone needs to be aware of this conversation, not only aware, but open to listen, because there's a difference between empathy and sympathy. I can sympathize with the Black community. I can say, hey, like, man, what's going on is not right. What can I do to change it? I can only empathize to an extent. Yes, I know about oppression, but I don't really know the full extent of it. Does that mean that, okay, because I'm not part of the Black community now, I don't need to be involved in this conversation? You know, I think that there's a balance between, you know, how can I be a better ally every single day? You know, whether that's maybe I should go with my Black friend to the gas station at night. Maybe that's a good idea. Maybe I should, there's little things like that that is a help without you knowing, you know.
Excellent.
And even though you can't empathize, it doesn't mean that, you know, you can't sympathize.
Right.
I think that just goes, you know, it all goes back into this cycle of how can I be a better ally? That's the question to people
Yeah.
who are not part of the Black community but want to be.
That's good. That's good. I mean, I think we all play a role, and you know, Melanie, I like to, you know, ask you the question because, you know, already we've heard perception. You know, I just heard it. DeMarco, Jazz, both talk about, you know, people's perception, or, you know, what they perceive. Let's talk about that. You know, from your perspective, you know, are we all living in the matrix? And it's almost like we've been conditioned. You know, like, I mean, I can break it down. You know, what is beauty? What is, you know, success? Is it, you know, can you talk to that? I mean, because I think, you know, you look at little kids, man, at the sandbox, they just play. But it's almost though as though we get older, all of a sudden we understand, oh, you know, they're not as good as. So can you talk to that? I would love to hear your perspective as a doctor.
Just from a privileged perspective, or I'm also thinking in terms of solution as I speak, no?
Yes.
Kind of our brains gets configured like that. And I think you mentioned an important word at the beginning of this panel, which was exposure. Yeah. Like if you haven't had the exposure, if you didn't grow up, I think Andrew was talking about Passaic with Puerto Rican, like, but if you haven't had exposure, you don't have your brain wires in a certain way. And stepping out, it feels like a fish out of water, whether you're a person of color or a person from privilege that is called out because you did a microaggressions or because you make an assumption about someone and you create a judgment, not just, that's how our brain wires. Just circling back at the same time to your question, why it's important from privileged perspective to discuss these topics is because you need to be exposed because we need to tell our stories. No, as an ally or as a person of color, no, and in all our minorities, no, there is a story that needs to be told that is not in our books that we don't go to school for. And exposure, it's a big word, I think, for the panel. No, exposure makes you, like Jasmine was saying, empathize and makes you take out your glasses and start seeing the world from other person's perspective and change your automatic response.
Awesome. Thank you, Melanie. You know, we have a question. This says, what are the most important things that allies can do to help change the current systemic problems, parenthesis, racism, in our society that hurt our Black and brown brothers and sisters? Katrina, what do you think? I mean, you came through LMTI, you know, an attorney, you know, nonprofit. I mean, you know, you've seen a lot. So you've interacted with a lot too. And so talk to us about that answer.
Absolutely. I mean, there are two things that sort of immediately come to mind. I think one of the great things as the Black Lives Matter movement has become such a more prevalent part of our everyday life is that people are challenging the majority, that it's not enough to just not be racist. You need to sort of be actively anti-racist. And that may mean standing up and saying something when you think there's something not right. It may mean donating to causes. But I think fundamentally to change the system, we talked about this when we were studying education, the group of people that are the haves have to be willing to give up some of what they have so that everybody else can have a piece of it. There are not unlimited pieces of this pie. If there are only 8 slices and 7.5 of those slices are owned by white people, some of those white people are going to have to give up some of those slices so that our Black, Indigenous, and people of color can have some. And I think we see that with some of our sort of billionaire philanthropists giving some of their money and doing the causes. But I think fundamentally that next layer of your first layer of privilege have to really be willing to sacrifice some things in order for some other people to attain some things.
Wow, that's very good, very good. And you know, and Dre, you know, you kind of really set it off, man. You know, you grew up, you know, in an environment, you know, and Melanie definitely hit it about the exposure. Talk to us about, I mean, when you came to LMTI, right? Did you come as a youth?
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, what was that like, man? I mean, you come, if I'm hearing you correctly, your environment was mostly Black and brown.
Yep.
School, neighborhood, right?
Yep.
So now you come to LMTI and it's, you know, the whole rainbow, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, when they're doing that little quacky dance up on stage, right? I mean, you were like, what in the world, right?
Yeah.
Right? So talk to me about, I mean, what went through your mind? What, I mean, be straight. I know this is some years ago, but I think we got to get into this mindset because as Katrina said, as Melanie said, you know, and Jazz, you know, and even DeMarco, you know, it's about us stepping out too, right? And sometimes, you know, we can get locked in, right? Because we're in the matrix and, you know, we prejudge. So I want to hear from your perspective, you know, what was that like and how did you have your breakthrough?
Yeah. Well, I think I was a lot different than a lot of the other campers who were coming for the first time because I was one half of a high school sweetheart who had gone to camp the year before and was a yak my first year going. And we had a really strong group, a strong action group per se. So we were well prepped for what we were gonna be exposed to. I don't know if the same could be said for some others, but to me, my mind was already open to accept what I was going to see, to accept that I was going to see people who were different from me, who were coming from different communities, who were going to educate me on some things that I had not yet known at 16 years old. And that stuck with me, you know, so it wasn't a challenge like I saw with some other people who, you know, not only was it hard for them to stay in the woods, and by the way, at that time we had to go outside and go to the bathroom and take a shower, but it was coupled with, okay, I've actually never interacted with a Black person before. How should I be interacting with this person?
Wow.
I've never had to be, you know, intentionally engaged with someone who was completely different from me, completely engaged with someone who I would never have crossed paths with ever. You know, I remember some people from like Newark, they never left Newark, right? So taking them out of Newark and then taking them up into the woods was a complete shock to the system,
Right.
complete shock to the system for them.
Sure.
And so when you talk about being able to bring all those different types of backgrounds and communities and different colors and everything together in one place, and then at the end of the week, seeing how that mesh has become such a beautiful rainbow is just something that is unforgettable.
Good.
And I do want to touch on a point about that, you know, just piggybacking off of exposure. Exposure also equates to becoming educated, because the question really started on how can allies become a lot more visible to help people like myself and everybody else on this panel.
Right.
The key to me is becoming educated, because before you can support something, before you can become a true ally, you need to know what the heck you're talking about. Right. So it's finding out, it's reading, it's listening to certain podcasts if you have access to that, things of that nature. Because again, that's really the only way that is going to help us move forward in a positive light to put an end to this systemic racism that has been part of our country for so long.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. Oh, go ahead, Katrina.
But it's not expecting us to educate you. I think that's one of the pitfalls of some folks who want to become educated, but expect us to do the educating. I mean, if you want to be a real ally in this movement, you have to be willing to do the work yourself.
Yes, agreed.
That's good. Man, we got a really great question, and this is really good. He says, how do you propose speaking on anti-racism within the family? Personally, my dad is a very headstrong person and doesn't like to be wrong. I am white, and so is my family. Personally, I want to have a voice in the Black Lives Matter movement and avidly promote anti-racism. However, my parents can be more conservative at times. They don't intend to be racist, but say some racist things. Every time I try to educate them, I get in an argument with my dad, and it doesn't end well. First of all, I want that person to know I commend you. I commend you first. I want to recognize the courage that you have. So I just want to first of all say that. So panelists, okay, Katrina's got something.
So I am biracial, and I was raised by my mother, who was white, and didn't really learn a lot about Black and African-American culture till I got to college. And when faced with a changing child, my mother actually called me the N-word shortly after I came home from my first 6 weeks at school. And I congratulate you, who asked the question, for your bravery in wanting to combat people in your family who might not think the same as you are. To the extent that you can compartmentalize it and maybe feed some of the information to them in small pieces, maybe your parents will be ready to hear it one day, and maybe they won't. Try to still live your truth to the extent that you can, but also protect yourself in your family environment from any hostility that you might face them. Sometimes that will force you to have to live a duality where you're somebody different interacting with them and maybe somebody different interacting with everybody else. So please protect yourself while you're doing this, but I congratulate you and your bravery for wanting to try to attack this.
Yeah, that's very powerful, you know, and I just want to say to that person as well, you know, I think the key is, you know, be true to you. One of my dearest friends, Sean McMahon, you know, of Irish descent, and one of the nicest guys, you know, we played football together since 4th grade. He's one of my closest friends. And I'll never forget, he told me that his grandparents are straight up racist. And I just couldn't even believe it, because his mom and dad are some of the nicest people, but he was like, Marlon, you just have no idea. And you know, one of the things that I think we talked about grace, I think it was DeMarco that talked about grace. You know, what I've come to realize, I lived in South Africa for a number of years, and, you know, I saw firsthand the ramifications of apartheid and, you know, up and close. And so what I'm saying is that, you know, I have friends that, you know, white South Africans, and some of them said, Marlon, that's all I knew growing up, you know, and I love what Andre said about education. You know, because it really takes, you know, educating folks. If, you know, if I know no better, that's, you know, that's all I know. And so, you know, but I want to say that, you know, I want it for that person and for all of us, you know, watching, and I think the key is for you to be true to yourself, you know, and just you shine your light and you be you. The other thing I want to say, you know, is, you know, when you hear some off-color jokes or whatnot, you know, you know, stand up. I think that's in the moment where you can just say, you know, I don't find that, I think it's offensive. And I know it might rock the boat, but at least you're planting a seed, because many times people are just sleepwalking. People really don't, you know, they're just, and not knowing that you're perpetuating stereotypes. So, you know, I think that's really important. Samaj, I want to bring you in, brother. You know, as far as one of the questions is, and I want to let you roll with this first, Samaj. The question is, hi, everyone. I'm a director of the Long Island Teen Institute. So happy to be here. What would you say to young white students, leaders, who want to have a voice about racism, but who shy away because they are nervous they do not deserve to share their opinion because they are not a person of color? Samaj, what do you have to say to that?
Well, to start, I just want to say to the person who just asked the question, thank you for that, and thank you for being able to speak out and step up and kind of voice your opinion. But as for the question about the Long Island TI, I think that as an African-American male, and I'm pretty sure all the panelists agree, we're always looking for allies. We're always looking for people to have in our corner and have our back and be able to say, yeah, I agree, and I think what's going on is wrong. So I think a big thing to be able to push toward your students is that being an ally is important and necessary for things to change. So if you believe in what you're thinking and believe in the fact that something is wrong currently, you should speak up. And that's really about it. It's just allies are necessary and we need them. So please, thank you.
Yeah, that was good. And I just want to say, just, give a shout out. Okay. Well, let me see. That was Jackie K from Hugs Inc. She put her name in. Andre, you have something you want to share?
Yeah, just to piggyback off of what Samaj, is that how you say your name, Samaj?
Yes.
Yeah, just to piggyback of what you said in regards to, yeah, we're looking for other allies. Like the fact that after George Floyd was murdered and so many white people were coming out of the woodwork, like if you looked at all the protests, the majority of those protests were white people. Yeah. And I remember having a phone call with my aunt. My aunt is in her late 60s. And, she did a lot of protesting back in the day for civil rights movement. And she was like, back then, we never saw anything like that. So the fact that white people were out and advocating and holding up the same sides as black people rang loudly. Yeah. And I'll give two other examples of allies in this particular part of Black Lives Matter movement. A friend of mine who lives in Ohio, she's white, her husband is white. She sent me a text. She's like, I want to do something. Let me know when we want to donate to an organization that you feel passionate about. And right away, I told her I wanted her to donate to the American Diabetes Association. Being a type 2 diabetic myself, I know all the health risks that come along with it. And I also know that it is prominent throughout the Black community. And so she didn't know that, right? So again, education, right? Not always you have to be the one educating. Sometimes it comes out. And the second piece is I'm married to a white woman. And we went to a protest near our home a couple months ago. And afterwards, I said, thank you for coming with me. And she's like, you don't have to thank me because this is just genuinely how I feel. I want equality. I want justice for people of color. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to say thank you to me because this is genuinely how I feel. And that's how I'll round it out with, if there's a genuine want and need to be advocates, then it would be greatly accepted.
Exactly. Wow. Powerful, man. Thank you. Thank you so much. And, one of the things I want to say to that, like Dre said, and Samaj, I get inspired when I see other people, stepping up. It's almost like, sexism. I mean, I've called friends out that have, I think, disrespected women. Right. I'm not a woman. Let's keep it real. OK. I'm straight up 100% man. All right. But I mean, right is right. And I think it really, says a lot when, it's injustice. And so I want to just encourage all of us, regardless of if you're, quote unquote, part of that group or not, we're part of the human family, straight up. And really what I wanted to get to is that, privilege or haves, have nots. Listen, this is Mother Earth. And I'm telling you, there's a ripple effect, right? I mean, you might think you're secluded. Maybe you live in a gated neighborhood, but I'm telling you, we're all interconnected. And so if there's problem on one side, it affects all of us. So to me, it's about, doing what's right. We all bleed the same color. So I wanted to say that. Also, I want to bring this up. Sarah wrote this really phenomenal in the chat box. She said, we all live in the same country. We all are involved in the same events. We all are contributing to each other's lives, directly or indirectly. If only one category of our country is able to ascend to higher ranks and another is left to sit at the bottom of the spectrum, the range between our divide will only increase. We need to ascend together, learn and progress as unity, or else the gap will only grow wider. And so I think I just wanted to recognize you, Sarah. And I mean, there's so many more people, but I'm looking at our time. Time is flying. But I wanted to say thank you. And I do want to get to these questions. Oh my God, more questions are popping in. But I want to say this, as far as LMTI, and I think we're gonna have to do this again, y'all. I think this is gonna be part 1, all right? I mean, I really do, because I think, we're just really getting some momentum. And, I think we're gonna have to have another session where we come together and we just really unpack this more. There is a video I wanna show and whatnot. But let's go through. I want to be respectful of the people that wrote their questions so that we can knock those out. Nora said, what are your views on the harder or softer derogatory N-words that have been used to oppress Black individuals for centuries? What do you think of people saying, I can say that word because I'm Black or I'm brown? Just real quick, anybody got anything they want to share? Melanie, did you have your hand up? Okay.
I can hop into that one because
Go ahead, Samaj.
It's like kind of a pretty prevalent topic, especially kind of being younger, and like that's a big thing, and kind of like school and around my friends. It's like, I personally, for a while, I can say that I was kind of blind to the fact of how much it affected some people. For a while, I let my my white friends kind of say it, and especially my close guy friends, they'd kind of say it, and I kind of laugh it off because I didn't realize how much it really affected and like the really deep meaning of it. And I can take for that. But more recently, as I kind of became, again, Andre mentioned it, and it was something that was on my mind, educated, I realized the fact that it wasn't okay. And even more recently, I kind of personally completely cut both words out of my vocabulary, conversation, and like just conversation wise, because I realized the effect of it, and it was something that I was blind to before, as I mentioned before. But I feel like after a while, it's one of these things where it shouldn't really be the case of like, oh, certain people should say it. I feel like, me personally, it's either everyone or nothing. So like nobody should be saying it, in my opinion. But I just kind of retraining my mind and learning from past experiences. I use that to kind of completely go through my thinking and change my life. Yeah.
Awesome. And, that leads into the next one. I'll just hit this real quick. Basically my friends and I were just discussing the use of the N-word. They couldn't understand that it can be offensive to people. How should I approach this conversation the next time we are on the topic? I think one of the things I want to encourage each one of us, all the viewers and the panelists and myself, is, we need to educate ourselves. I think Dre really hit it. Find out where did that word come from? You know what I'm saying? And I get it, some music and whatnot, but when you find out the roots of a word, right? And I know it's a term of endearment for some, but when you can find out the roots and educate yourself, I think that's where the breakthrough can happen. And so for that person who wrote that question, go just, Google it. You can find out that way when it does come up, and sometimes remember this, a lot of people will laugh to cover up the pain, right? I mean, I know there have been times when, my friends have been cutting jokes and I laugh, but it hurts. So, we have to be sensitive, right? And I choose, just to take a high road because I know people laugh to hide the pain. So great question. Let me keep it going. How do I get my best friends to acknowledge the glass ceiling in systemic racism? We, parenthesis, him and I, are both Indian American males who have spent our whole lives in Middlesex County. When I started my concerns about it, he seemed to brush them off. So how do I get others to understand or be open? How do you, the conversation when people are like, oh no, there is no glass ceiling, there's no racism. Anybody want to jump in on that?
If I can jump in, I think the important piece is, again, circles back to education, but also finding different ports of entry, finding a good moment, and finding stories. I think that's why we need to tell our stories, and that's why it's so important. If you're able to connect with that piece of the story, like the definition of a word and the history behind it,
yes.
Then I will add to the conversation the word connect. When you're able to connect the dots, it then does click. And sometimes it takes multiple attempts. So if you're going to be an ally, be ready to be a fish out of water,
Yeah.
I'm asthmatic, so being out of water, and I'm a woman, Latina in higher education, and so I'm if you're a person of color, get used to be a fish out of water,
Right.
Because you're gonna feel like that multiple times in your life, and not let that stop you. I think it's
Right.
the important message too, and try it again the next time.
Good. That's powerful. Thank you. The other thing I want to say, we got YouTube, right? We can Google videos. Use that as a resource. That bad boy YouTube is no joke, Jack, and so to educate yourself and then share with your family, your friends, right? Because again, sometimes people they know no better, right? And that's one of the things that I'm hearing even tonight. So let's get on, and I'm gonna try to knock these questions out. We won't do the video tonight because I just want to get to these questions, and we have to have another session. This might be a monthly, this LMTI on racism. You know what I'm saying? We might just change the whole LMTI focus. I think we got Doug Bratton on. Doug, we need to change some things, okay? All right, I'm just saying, brother. Okay, let's get back to focus. As a young leader who still lives at home with her parents, is there anything I can do to help with the Black Lives Matter movement besides sharing my information that I find or signing petitions that come my way? I always feel as if there is more I can do, but I just don't know where to start. Somebody.
I'll go back to the example that I gave about my friend who said she was willing to make a donation to, an association that was near and dear to my heart. Maybe $5 or whatever the case may be, but just those little things, and I would also say, don't think that you have to bite off this big chunk that's gonna be meaningful for change. A little bit goes a long way. A little bit goes a long way. I can't say that enough. So again, it's little things like that. And I'll say it again, get yourself educated.
Powerful.
You can write letters, particularly now you might be able to help with voter registration in your community. This election coming up is crucial. See if you can recruit people to be poll watchers. There are so many things that you as one person can do, and congratulations for wanting to do more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah.
Here's another one. I have adopted, and there's just so much more. And again, I hope LMTI, I think we'll have maybe an email, send your email, the panelists, this will keep it rolling, right? Because we want to be a resource for you. But any questions that you have, please send it to, LMTI, give us your feedback as well. But let me keep it rolling. We got a few more questions I want to get to. I have an adopted Black sister, and the rest of my family is white. My parents aren't fully educated on racism because they grew up with white family and lived in a white neighborhood. I have done a lot of research and have educated myself on a lot of the topics surrounding racism. My parents are very against the Black Lives Matter movement because of their roots. I have tried to talk to them about it, but they always say, I am entitled to my opinion and they are entitled to theirs. How can I change their mind and let them know that this is a very serious issue that my sister will have to grow up with so that they need to be more educated about this? I see you, DeMarco, you got something you want to share?
Well, yeah, I'll jump right in there. Awesome. Thank you for acknowledging and noticing that your adopted sister is going to have to face some of those problems and some of those challenges even within your own home. This is what I'll say to speak to those who are ready and willing and wanting to do more and ready to be allies. Understand that we as Black people don't want or need pity. What we need is partnership.
Yes.
It's not about pity. It's about partnership. If I know that you have my back, if I know that you're not going to stand for the things that are systematically oppressing me, you're not going to stand for the microaggressions, you're not going to stand for the stereotypes, and you are going to allow me, for those youth leaders in the Long Island Teen Institute, you're going to allow your Black participants to lead the conversation on that, and you act as support behind them. Let them be the voices, but we need to know that we can stand and sit on your shoulders, that we can lock arm in arm with you, that we can face this thing together. To touch on a part that Marlon said earlier, it's about women. If I want to fight for women's rights, I have to understand that women can't be the only people fighting for their rights. Women need me to fight for their rights. And so being a person of color, I need people of non-color, however the right way to say it is, I need your support and I need your aid in this fight. So kudos to you for being an ally for your sister. And the best way to show your parents is to be that example. Show them that your sister is a human being, that she's entitled to the same allowances, that she's entitled to that same word, that grace, and that same ingratiation into the family that anyone else would be privy to. So thank you for recognizing those struggles that she does, and hopefully with this amazing panel, we've put together some ideas and said some things that will help aid you in your walk and your journey with your sister.
Yeah, and I also got to say, this is recorded. So, I hope that there's a way that we have everyone's email that, came tonight that just popped in my head. Because, I think this recording would be great to send out so that people can then, share with their family, their friends, and just, maybe have a dialogue, right? I think we're going to have another one. I'm claiming it, right? I don't know what Jamie, they might fire me for saying that, but, hey, how serious is LMTI? That's what I want to know. But in all seriousness, this is great. So check this out. Hi, I am 16. And I'm wondering how to bring up the Black Lives Matter movement and being anti-racist and an ally into the conversation with my friends and kids in school who are very pro Donald Trump and outwardly say very racist things.
Well,
oh boy, you have Catherine. You have gotten the panel. They don't know what to say. Look,
well, definitely don't want to get
touching that. I ain't touching that.
Definitely don't want to get political, but I would just say speak to your beliefs. You can't always change someone else's mind, and that goes back to the last question about this person's family members. You could talk about the stance that you have. And yes, we are all entitled to our opinions. But if these friends of yours are people who mean a lot to you, then it is in your best interest to let them know what you say offends me, and let them know how passionate you feel about Black Lives Matter and everything that encompasses that. And again, if they are true friends to you, they will respect that, just like I would think that you respect them as well. So I mean, that's something I grew up to learn and to understand, is that if you don't like something, if it's offending you, you got to let it be known, because then it won't ever end.
Wow. Okay, that's good. I know people are ready to jump in. And again, I think that the greatest teacher is you. When you live your truth, when you walk your truth, when other people are cutting jokes and you just, say, hey, I don't find that funny. I don't think that's, appropriate. And, you're planting that seed, and, people are going to do what they want to do. You can't quote unquote change anybody, right? We're not, we're hoping that they have their breakthrough, that they have their epiphany. And everyone's entitled to their opinion. And so I think the biggest thing, and my takeaway, is really allowing my life to shine, to be an example, so that I can look myself in the mirror when I'm 95 years young and say, I treated people, the way I wanted to be treated. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you, right? The golden rule. And so I think that's very powerful. I want to be respectful of time, and I want to hit this last question, and then I'm going to ask the panelists to share their parting words. All right. We didn't really get to all of our questions, but that's how it rolls, right? Live TV. Okay. I'm just saying. So this is a great question. She says, as a parent of white children, at what age should this conversation take place? Now we focus on, even though many people look different from each other and we should all, treat it the same, is there more it should be teaching my children at a young age? Should I be doing more at a young age? And what age should I really unpack this? Go ahead.
So one of the things that I want to, and I'm glad we have people that have 16 years old here and people who are parents, because that makes a huge difference. When you're young, your perspective about life, it's going to change 10 years from now, even though you think you're not when you're 16. So one of the things is, because racism is systemic, representation is important. We live in a world that the books that we buy for our children tend to be not have people of color. So that's an important, just exposure again comes with representation, and becoming intentional I think one of the things that comes across is how you can be intentional with your actions. How you can, if you're gonna do on a project at school. I'm not a Black woman, no, I'm a Latina woman. So some of the things that I do in my work is just bringing Black authors and Black voices. So if you're 16 years old and you're doing a project for school, bring a Black voice, a Black author telling their story, bring voices into the room that can provide representation, because with the story comes an understanding, and maybe that brings us to a better place. So in terms of development, the same thing perhaps would be my recommendation.
Wow, that's good. That's good. Thank you. Thank you. And, I know we have more questions. I can't get to everybody. I do see in the chat box that Doug said he hears us, guys. We need to have another one. All right. So we got him on record. We achieved our mission. Yes, we did.
Doug and I were Tiggers together. So.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Katrina, you got some pull. I know you got some pictures of Doug that we need to bring up on the next.
No comment.
But look, I also see Lizette. Lizette's my girl, and she said vote, and that's real talk, right? And that's I'm going to go around to the panels. They can all share their perspective, their final words, their closing comments. But for me, Lizette really hit it. Okay, and oh man, I tell you, I'm already smiling because it's all about experiences. She and Mayor, those are my people, right? But I like that vote. Because at the end of the day, your life matters. And, regardless of who you vote for, who you choose, I'm just saying, have your voice, have your vote count, because this is real talk, right? And again, I think that it's just something that we all have to take serious and do our part to be involved. So with that being shared, we're a little bit over. Thank you, viewers for staying, but we're now just have just a final, I'd like to give each of the panelists some words of encouragement, some action items, just something very brief, a takeaway. How do we move forward, right? This was Real Talk Racism with LMTI. And so how do we now take this conversation and use it for good, use it for a solution, use it for making a change, making the world a better place for all, just like we are the world, right? That was, back in the day. How do we make this world a better place? I'll start off with Katrina, and then I'll come to Melanie, and then we'll close out with the brothers.
Well, first I want to give a shout out to Lisette. We were yaks together.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. My circles run deep, Marlon. My circles run deep. So for me, firstly, I'm really, really, really heartened by everyone's genuine curiosity around this topic and their real interest in how to do something. All of the questions really show that people want to move the needle and are looking for some guidance on how. And so I really look forward to all of the series that LMTI will offer to do that. And I guess my parting words for folks are, when you see something, ask yourself, is everybody experiencing this the same? Is everybody accessing this the same? Are people feeling the same about this? And if the answer is no, ask yourself if there's something that you can do to level the playing field a little bit. And if you can do that, do that.
Wow, thank you, Katrina. That was powerful. Melanie?
I would just add, just participate, whether it means participate and be intentional, whether it's choosing a career and bringing, if you're going to college, choosing a career that you can bring that message and serve it to others, which is where most of us are. But also in your everyday work, if you educate yourself, use it in your everyday life, and that in itself hopefully will make a change too.
Wow, thank you, DeMarco.
I spend a lot of my time telling young people that their passion is their power. It works and it applies for us adults as well. Your passion is your power. But I want you to understand that if I take my passion and I make it a representative of a pebble, and I take my pebble and I throw it into a body of water, it will create ripples. What I want you to understand is that ripples disturb the water. They do. And I can do a lot with my passion. But together, if we combine all of our passions, if we combine all of our pebbles, and we take our pebbles and we throw them into the same body of water, that ripple now becomes a wave. Ripples disturb the water, waves construct the coastline. Let's make waves.
Powerful. Thank you, DeMarco. Samaj?
Just want to start with saying thank you to everyone who's here. Thank you to LMTI for having me. For like my younger people who are on here, a big thing I see is a lot of support for like Black Lives Matter and just people of color in general on Instagram stories and social media stories. So keep posting. Talk about people like Jacob Blake. Just talk about what's going on. Be active. Send posts, share posts. Keep your voices heard, and things will change eventually. It'll happen eventually. So that's really about it. And yeah.
Man, appreciate you, brother. Dre.
I'm so very proud to be part of this panel, and I'm also happy to see the involvement of so many people for tonight's panel. DeMarco nailed it, absolutely nailed it as far as making waves. It's something that we need to do, and part of that is voting in November to create a tidal wave, a tsunami, any other kind of act of Mother Nature that you want to put in there. That's what needs to happen in November. And I'll again reiterate what I've been saying throughout this past hour and some change is to know the facts, and to be able to know the facts is to educate yourself. So this way you can be a genuine ally to people of color and all other walks of life as well. Definitely got to educate yourself.
Wow, that's awesome, man. This has really been powerful. You know, I want to close out with a video. I do want to do it. I know we've gone a little bit over, but I just feel, the power of one. And I think this video, what DeMarco just shared, I think this video is going to really, really just encapsulate the power that each one of us have. Your voice, your actions, your words, it matters. It's a ripple effect, truly, straight up. And, and then also, and I want to also, LMTI, hopefully we can, get the chat, all the chat, and we can transcribe it or, email it out. I think you can copy it. And with the audio, with the video, let's send it out to people, because there's a lot of resources. I see Rock the Vote. There's been books that have been recommended, different website links, so on and so forth. So I think that's a great starting point. 100 strong. Listen, we can transform the world. If each one of us just talks to 10 people, right now it's 1,000 people. And those 10 talk to 10. Are y'all with me? I mean, this is how a movement starts. And so we're going to go ahead and play this video. And if you can stay on. For me, that just really sums what's possible. When each one of us just shines our light, shines our love, it's a ripple effect. And so I hope that video blessed you as it blessed our panelists. Because understand, each one teach one, each one reach one. I like what Samaj said, we are growing better. Our world is going forward. Yeah, we're not there yet. But with each one of us, the 100 of us tonight, that ripple, that passion, it turns into a wave. And I believe tonight's video, the recording of this panel discussion, as well as the chat box, I believe when we receive this, I know I'm looking forward. I'm gonna sit down with my children tomorrow, and we're gonna watch this video. They're gonna be like, "Oh, Dad, we gotta watch you." No, it's the panelists, okay? I want you to watch the panelists. But it's gonna open up a dialogue. Are y'all with me? And then I'm gonna send it to my family, and I'm gonna send it to my friends. And so I want you, if you're up for you sharing this video with your family, your friends, just type in the chat box, yes or no. And I won't be offended even if you write no. But I think there's power when we just can come together and say, you know what, I'm in it. Because a lot of times people talk, but what happens tomorrow? What happens next week? What happens next month? And with LMTI, one of the things I love about LMTI is that it's about change. It's about measured results. And I'm so grateful to be part of this family. And that's what it is. It's a family. And so I hope, my prayer is that each one of us was blessed tonight. I believe we were. And I like for you just to type in the chat box, yes or no. And again, there's no problem if you say no, but the opportunity, the invitation is for you to take the video when you get the recording and for you to share it with at least 10 people. Now I'm stepping it up because at first I said family, friends. I want to just now put a number to it. Because again, I really believe 100 strong now, that's 1,000 people. Each one of us sends it out to 10 people. And then I would encourage you to have a follow-up conversation. Hey, what'd you think of that? Because again, this is Mother Earth. We can put a man, a woman up on the moon, but if we can't get it together here, we will implode. And so the opportunity is now for us to step up. And so I see a lot of yeses. Yes, yes, yes. Man, that's awesome. Definitely. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much. Because LMTI rocks. And again, this pebble, as we just heard, one pebble is just a pebble, ripple. But 100 LMTI pebbles is a wave. I want to thank Katrina, Melanie, DeMarco, Samaj, Dre, as well as Jazz. I want to thank Jamie and Corey and all of the LMTI family and friends, because time is our most precious commodity. And I believe what we did tonight will transform the world. I believe that. Because each one teach one, each one reach one. In closing, I want to share this. Remember, a vision without action is just a dream. A lot of action without a vision is merely a passing of time. But a vision with action can change the world. As Gandhi said, be the change that you want to see in the world. Stay blessed.